So that's gonna come out backwards, ain't it? Star Wars. Went to go see that movie last night. The Last Jedi. Not gonna ruin anything for anybody. I know it's been out for a bit, but there might still be some of you who haven't seen it. And I excuse that. It's okay. I cried. And pathetically enough, I cried before anything happened. I was sitting in my comfy seat, some theater that has really cushy seats. I forget the name of it in Dayton, but I went with my family. My 13-year-old daughter, 15-year-old son, and my blank-year-old wife. She doesn't want me to say how old she is, of course, but I was with my family. And I started tearing up within the first couple of minutes. And I thought to myself, what the heck is wrong with me? And I got the answer really quickly. It was nostalgia. It was nostalgia, but it was nostalgia in a very strange sense. It was a nostalgia of loss. What did I lose? Lost a lot of things as I've grown up, but I lost my innocence. I lost a sense of wonder. I saw these ships and people flying around shooting at each other, and I'm tearing up at this because I remembered as I was growing up all the things I had exchanged for wonder. I had exchanged money. I had exchanged education. I was now a learned man. I had exchanged social media for wonder, but just information. We live in a world of plenty of it. And I let that get in the way of my sense of wonder so early as a kid. Instant gratification was another thing I exchanged in place of wonder. I had so many of these toys growing up. Star Wars was my imagination, was my playground, my mental playground, and my physical one too. I would do things with these characters. I would connect them to real balloons and bring them up really high into the sky and then shoot them down and watch all these little poor Star Wars figurines tumble to the floor and splinter into a million pieces. But I would also use my bike as a speeder bike. I love the speeder bikes. Even though they were, it was Empire, so I wasn't in love with the Empire, but they had some cool toys, man. You gotta admit, they had some really cool gadgets. Those speeder bikes were just number one. And I had the toy that you would go and zoom into a tree and then press a little button on the back of the speeder bike and explode it, and you'd recreate the scene that you had in the woods with the Ewoks and all the other poor venturesome souls who tried using the speeder bikes for the first time. But I would take my own physical bike along with my sister and my brother. We were living in Mexico at the time. I was about 8 and 9 and 10 actually. And we would put our feet on the top of the steering bars so we could approximate the feeling of a speeder bike. Imagine that. You're sitting on the seat of a bike, but your legs are propped up on the handlebars, and you are flying as fast as you can down these hills and canyons in Mexico. There were hills and canyons to me, I was small, but kind of dangerous, and that was the point. We wanted to see if we could weave in and out of parked cars, weave in and out of non-parked cars, as in on the actual road, and see if we could survive. Maybe that was just the way I was thinking. My brother and sister were definitely along for the ride, but maybe they were more careful than I. I don't know. I'd have to ask. But I had this sense of wonder. I wonder if I'll get back home in one piece. And this sense of wonder, I also exchanged for drugs. And if you know me, you've heard that story before, so I won't elaborate. You can see me at a stage near you, maybe at one day, or you can catch up on my previous videos if that's at all interesting to you. But 26 years of mental health drugs I exchanged in place of wonder. And I think about the education that I've had and the imperative that there is only one way to do something. And here I'm quoting from Sir Ken Robinson. There's only one way to do it. It's in the back of the book, but don't check because that's cheating. Whereas in the real world, it's called collaboration. You help each other. But that education paradigm that I was a part of that told me I couldn't fail. I wasn't allowed to. I mean, they didn't spell it out like that, but they certainly made me feel like my modality of learning was wrong. I needed to touch everything. See? I'm driving and I'm touching things. And I needed to be able to actually experience it while dancing and singing and moving and breaking things to see what's inside and then trying to learn how to put it back together. That was my modality, and it was, to use the word modality, that's just the lingo of the education. I'll say sometimes the education elite, but there's good intentions there. There's good intentions. But that was my modality. I needed to be so immersed in everything and create the content that I was learning from. Not just digest pre-created content. I needed to create it and then see if it was valid. And then if it wasn't, exchange it for something that was. But just not feel trapped in a lack of experimentation. And I just recall that education and how much it belittled my imagination and how much I allowed it to belittle my imagination. Wow, there's a lot of sun here and I can't see the lights. Hopefully they're green. I'm going through them. They're green, relax. But my education belittled that which I thought was so important about me. To quote another Sir Ken Robinson, I really admire that gentleman. My education marginalized everything that I thought was important about myself. And I let it. And I gave up on my multimedia ideas and my anything ideas, really, my entire imagination, in exchange for what was in a textbook. And textbooks became student manuals, employee manuals, dictionaries, encyclopedias, whatever's on the internet. Rules, regulations, laws must be abided by. Laws are good. I'm not saying they're bad. Rules are good. But we need to be able to question them and be able to turn them upside down when they don't apply. And I gave up on that. I gave up on my questioning and my wonder in exchange for what was already available and was decided upon as being the way to do everything. And so, back to Star Wars and me tearing up. That's what I was tearing up over. Remembering that how much of wonder had been given up in exchange for other things. And as I got older in life and money became the reason you do everything, including your education, what gets you the highest paying job? That's what you must study. Ooh, exciting. Nothing wrong with money, folks. Money is super important. I'm not against money. But if that's the reason you do things, if that's the reason you decide to study something and get good at something for money, if that's your motivation, man, you're in for a world of tons of hurt. Maybe not now, but soon. Eventually soon. I like that. I had a whole bunch of Star Wars toys, as I mentioned earlier, and some of these were collector's items. I mean, we had just about everything that came out. We were very big into Star Wars. We used to recreate the scenes with the Ewoks, with all these little cacti that we had. Yes, we had lots of cacti. Plural for cactuses. Cactuses doesn't sound good, so cacti. We had a lot of cacti growing up as kids. For some reason, we loved it in our rooms, and we used to put these cacti all over the carpet in our room and then pretend that was the moon of Endor. They didn't have cacti on the moon of Endor. It was more like a forest, a rainforest, but this is the plants we had, cacti. So we would race through the cacti, trying not to get stuck on them, getting pricked on our fingers as we had the speeder bikes and the Ewoks flying around. And I got rid of all those toys as I got older, not because I didn't value them, but because I learned to value them. I learned they were valuable. I learned that they were worth a lot of money. And I wanted to go off to California to try my luck at being an actor. Long, different story, which I won't go into, but that was the reason that I got rid of my Star Wars toys. Much to the dismay of my brother, who I didn't ask for permission in advance of selling these toys. It was a joint partnership until then. And I went to the local pawn shop. It was a toy shop. It wasn't a pawn shop. It was like a collector's toy shop. And I sold a huge box of toys with tons of Star Wars, mostly Star Wars, for $100. They were worth well over that, but I thought $100 was a lot of money to me at age, I guess I was 19. It's pretty sad. And so I exchanged my sense of wonder for money. I never became an actor, by the way. At least not professionally. So what are you exchanging for wonder? What short-term things are you choosing to focus on in exchange for your long-term? Because I think the sense of wonder is a long-term thing. I wonder how I can achieve being a rock star. Or I wonder how I can achieve getting to the moon or Mars or beyond, or whatever the government's calling their Mars program these days. I wonder how I can achieve creating a nation that cares about people who are suffering from mental health illnesses, because we're the ones that are actually administering to them incorrectly. They don't have a mental health problem in some cases. Whatever your sense of wonder, what short-term things are getting in the way that are stopping you from exercising that sense of wonder? Is it money? Is it social media? Is it constant needing to feel liked? Hitting that like button, getting the like button hit on you? Is it caffeine? Is it some addiction? Is it alcohol? Is it drugs? Is it that next party that you hope to be recognized for the dumb dress you're wearing? I wore a dress. I'm not talking to women here only. What short-term thing is so important to you that you are sacrificing your wonder and your long-term thinking for something that you would otherwise be devoting every waking moment of your life to perfecting and getting good at, because you've discovered what's important, who you are, and doing something about it? What short-term things are getting in the way? Because it's nicer to get instant things. We've trained ourselves to be instant. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to the people you love. Train yourself to be patient. Train yourself to think long term. Don't ever let go of your sense of wonder. There are many things out there that are better left unknown.